I'm with Mike McGlone, head of U.S. research over at ETF Securities. Mike, good to have you here at the show.
Hello, good morning.
Well, you're a panelist here at the show, and we'll talk about what you mentioned yesterday in a second. But first, last time we saw each other in New York, you were telling me something interesting, and I remembered it. You were saying how if silver doesn't catch up to the party here, it could be a risk to the rest of the party. How do you feel 1 month later?
Unfortunately, it's still the same. I think at the time we were talking about silver 20-day volatility reaching the lowest levels in like a decade. Now it's silver 30-day volatility, the lowest levels in over a decade. These things are very rare. As we know, silver is a volatile metal, but it's usually an indication of a big move. And silver hasn't really moved much since. It's still kind of drifting a little lower, $19.50 an ounce. And I think it might drift lower, but it's more likely to be the next indication of the next big move, which is more likely to be up. The question is when. Right.
Now, Mike, that was my next question, is when is the excitement going to come back into the gold circle here? Because it just seems we're just so range-bound right now.
Yes, it's gold between 1280 and 1320 or so for since the end of April. Now, it did that in January and February. It locked in around, kind of pivoted around 1250, and now it's pivoting around 1300. I think it's building a base for the next move higher, but the key thing to watch for gold is interest rates. Interest rates continue to decline. And a bit of a drag was yesterday when the equity market took off again, but gold's still hanging in there. It's just marking time.
Right. Now, let's get back to silver's volatility. You had another interesting quote that you were telling Debbie Carlson last week, one of our senior reporters. You said volatility is always mean reverting. So when volatility is that low, it's ready for a big move. So you mentioned it a bit before, but could you elaborate? Is the next big move coming now?
Sure. The question's when. So give you an example on an option trader. And option traders always talk about volatility. One big example that I'll never forget in history was 2006, 2007, when the VIX on the S&P dipped around 10 and stayed there for almost 6 months. And that was a precursor for the big crash. Volatility went from 10 to 80. It just took a little while. Right now, volatility in silver is extremely low. It's around 12-13%. And we know silver volatility can go as high as 80. It averages around 25-30. It'll go back there. It's more likely to go back there, I think, on a rally because it's going down on a drift lower. It's more likely to go up on a spike higher or back to the trend.
Now, I know you do like the PGMs. I heard you say that on the panel yesterday alongside Jeff Christian and Frank Holmes.
Yes, as we discussed earlier, my only fear is who doesn't like the PGMs. But for me, we're pure global macro analysis. You know, in our firm, we offer long and short positions, so we have to be neutral about our bias. And before the year began, the deficit, supply-demand deficit in PGMs looked the most attractive. You just see supply contracting. There's not a lot of supply coming on South Africa and Russia, and demand's just taking off. Not only because of car sales, but increased emissions controls. That hasn't changed. If anything, it's accelerated this year. So even if we get a resolution in the strikes in South Africa, the all-in cost of production for platinum is going to jump. I mean, they have to have a resolution. They have to increase wages. So bigger picture, I just can't see any resolution for platinum palladium except higher prices.
Well, it's really the consensus I've been hearing here is everyone's really eyeing platinum, so we'll see. Mike, thanks so much for joining us on Kitco News.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for watching our continued coverage from the Metals and Minerals Conference taking place here in New York. We'll have more for you. In the meantime, you can email us any feedback and newsfeedback@kitco.com. Thanks for watching.